asking for apologies. Have we got any apologies today?
Yes, good afternoon, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Petrovic and Councillor Fleming.
Thank you. Disclosures of interest. Any disclosures of interest anybody has to declare? No? Moving on to standard disclosures. I need to update. I'm no longer a Warwickshire Wildlife trustee. I have stepped down from that, so I have changed that as a declaration of interest through the council, but it needs to be recorded here that I've no longer got that as a disclosure. Any other disclosures? No. Okay. And the minutes, to confirm and sign the minutes of the meeting that was held on the 3rd of September. Are you all happy for me to confirm and sign those minutes? Okay, thank you. And there were some matters arising. One was to discuss the fresh food strategy with officers, and I believe that is complete. Ellie, have you got any comments to make on that one at all, or is it we just accept it as complete?
I think we're just accepting as complete, aren't we?
Yeah.
But no comments, yeah.
Okay, and the next one was to consider the Council Climate Action Scorecards right to reply, and the detail was that this will be considered once the right to reply is received. I've just forwarded you on today, Eleanor, that they are now requesting that right to reply information, so I've just sent that as an information to you. That came to me first, so I forwarded it on to yourself and Tony Perks. So they will be asking for that. To discuss funding support for sports clubs, I believe that is now complete. And to discuss planning powers and policy regarding paving over gardens, and I believe that is now complete. We've got some clarification on that. So I don't think there's anything outstanding there, is there, Ellie, or are we all right?
No, just to update that the Community Climate Change Fund will be eligible for sports clubs. So that's one of the changes that we have made based off that particular matter arising. Okay.
And just to update you, I've actually visited some of the schemes that were successful in the last tranche. I just took the opportunity to go and visit them and see, and I am going to write them up so it will be used for the next article that I do on the website, the District Council website. So I'll pass it through to our communications officers first to make sure that they're happy with it. But I'm visiting them. Welcome, Manuela Pertiguela, to this meeting of the Climate Panel. The next item is Climate Assembly, and this is to receive an update following the Council's Climate Assembly event held on the 5th of September. We have had an apology from Stephen Norrie, who couldn't be here, but he is wanting to be engaged in any conversation about future Climate Assembly events. So I will pass that information on to you, Eleanor, if that's okay with you. And then, as part of that, we just need to, it's planning for the future. Do you want to take up your plans for the future, Eleanor?
Yeah, sure. So we have received quite a lot of feedback following the Climate Assembly, which was held on the 5th of September. So most of today's session is going to be spent going through the feedback received, and then we'll open out into a discussion where we consider kind of what changes we might make for any future events that we hold with a similar line of thought. So I'm just going to share my screen because I've put some stuff together. I won't be able to see if anybody's got their hand raised. So if anybody does have any queries as I go through them, please feel free to just interrupt. It is quite long, so I'll try and get through it as quickly as possible. Let me just share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Yeah, fab. Okay, so just starting off, so it's kind of broken down into two sessions. So firstly, the workshop feedback, so the feedback that was received on the themes of businesses, biodiversity, that kind of thing. and then it will go through into kind of generic feedback about the event, things like venues and the kind of way that the day was ran. Unfortunately, we haven't got feedback for all of the workshop sessions, although I believe, Councillor Hatch, you have some to feedback on schools, so I will make sure that we give you that chance before we move on to the kind of more generic feedback. So starting off with the vision, one of the exercises that we asked was for residents to provide information as to what they would like to see in the future in Stratford district to provide a kind of greener future. So we've got more active travel across the district, supporting local sports facilities to adapt to climate change, more engagement in the council's public participation sessions, better communications around the benefits of reducing your own carbon footprint, making urban centres greener and more biodiverse, increase rates of tree planting, making new and existing houses greener, increasing the quantity and availability of EV charging points, and aiming to link more local food producers with consumers. So once having received this, what we've done is we've embedded the feedback that we received at the Citizens Assembly into the vision section for the council's emerging climate change and nature recovery strategy. So this has directly informed that document, and that is a theme as we go through. So I'll move on to the next section, which was the energy workshop. The feedback that was received during the energy workshop was kind of split into two main sections, so barriers to increasing renewable energy and then potential solutions that attendees thought we could focus on. So starting off with the barriers, we've got the skills gap of lack of skills to enable the installation of the required infrastructure. That people might be committed to a business as usual approach and might feel alienated by kind of emerging technologies, and that might make them reluctant to take those up. Uncertainty around regulation, so the NPPF and kind of building regs, that sort of thing, and then a lack of funding. For the solutions, it was provided that best practice case studies are useful, so that the council might be able to do something in this space, making it more available when people have managed to do things successfully, providing more advice from trusted sources, using a holistic approach, making sure that communications are consistent, and using a carrot stick approach kind of in tandem. The business workshop is split down into 5 different sections. So we asked participants where they look for their first port of call and signposting around kind of sustainability advice. So we've got a range of stakeholders here. We've got Business Growth West Midlands, Coventry and Warwickshire Growth Hub, Sandwell Council Growth Hub, Stratford District Council, Innovate UK Business Growth. We've got Warwickshire Towns Network, Stratford-upon-Avon Business Improvement District, and Coventry and Warwickshire Chamber of Commerce. Moving on, we asked them where they could access free one-to-one business advice. So we've got the West Midlands Combined Authority feeding down into the Business Growth West Midlands. We've then got a range of kind of local authorities that businesses in the region can access, from Coventry City Council, Warwickshire County Council, Dudley Metropolitan Borough Council, City of Wolverhampton Council, Walsall Council, Sandwell Metropolitan Borough Council, Birmingham City Council, Solihull Metropolitan Borough Council, and that forms down into the Business Energy Advice Service and the energy audit scheme that they're currently running, which is being delivered in tandem with Aston University. We then asked where they could access learning, information and events. So we found that this was kind of mainly around the universities and educational providers. So we've got Birmingham City University. They are providing Retrofit the City course, Climate Literacy for Sustainable Futures Bootcamp. We've got Aston University as well. They're delivering the Green Advantage Sustainability Skills Bootcamp and Net Zero workshops for the BGWM. University of Birmingham with the Green Economy series and the Climate Innovation Platform Accelerator Programme. West Mids Combined Authority are delivering carbon literacy training. Sandwell Council Growth Hub are delivering the Net Zero Navigator workshop. The Coventry and Warwickshire Growth Hub provide the Coventry Business Podcast, and the West Midlands Net Zero Pledge, which is accessible for all kind of businesses in our area. There's pledge sessions online and in person, and West Midlands Innovation Programme deliver the Venture Fest mobile hub. So we'll be looking to kind of increase awareness of the different schemes that are being run that might be suitable for our businesses in the district on our website, and kind of increasing the online presence of those. Funding is available from Business Growth West Midlands. The Warwickshire Skills Hub provide a 50+ skills fund and the Skills Escalator Fund. The West Mids Innovation Programme deliver pilot project funding, and the Business Energy Advice Service energy audits, which are being delivered by the County Council, provide energy efficiency grants. So there are a range of funding options available as well, which we can make more clear to be signposted on our websites. Circular economy and waste, so businesses looking for support in those areas can access support through the international synergies. Solihull Metropolitan Borough Council and Birmingham City Council, who are working to deliver the West Midlands Resource Reuse Network. Circular Economy, Birmingham and Solihull. Sustainable Supply Chains, Birmingham and Solihull, and then they're delivering the industry matching workshops. And then we've got the Rebuild site and the ASAN Wood Saints, who are working to deliver the Reuse Hub in Wolverhampton. Sector specific supports and networks, we've got Warwick Manufacturing Group, which providing small medium enterprise support hub for manufacturers. We've got the MedLink Midlands, providing consultancy and support programs for Med Health Tech. Tech West Midlands, providing the consultancy and support programs for tech innovation. We've got the Waste and Resources Action Programme, providing information and support on waste and resources, accessible to all. We have got Sustainability West Midlands. They are providing membership and consultancy on sustainability. We're a member of SWM ourselves. We've got the West Mids Combined Authority Greener Together Forum, who are working to provide the network on sustainability for businesses and communities. Warwickshire Skills Hub, who are providing future skills, business support advice, and Innovation Alliance for the West Midlands. They are providing the West Midlands Innovation Programme, sorry, this bit's really tiny, pilot project funding, innovate working groups, health manufacturing and low carbon, and resulting in the Venture Fest for the Mobile Hub and Venture Fest solely itself. So that is the business, sorry, just go back to it. So that is the feedback that was kind of given from the business workshop. I'm presenting this on behalf of Mark Wathen, who will know more about these the kind of different things in particular, but we can definitely make more, I think, of the support that is available to businesses in the district, and we'll be looking to do that on the website off the back of this. Moving on to the biodiversity workshop, so the feedback that was received in the biodiversity workshop kind of focused on next steps really, and what we can do immediately to increase more biodiversity friendly practices across the district as a whole. So we've got the need to embed wildlife friendly planning policy in the emerging South Warwickshire local plan. We've got the need to kind of think and act local, so making sure that biodiversity action is being enhanced and kind of incentivised on a really kind of local scale, so working with town and parish councils, utilising funding mechanisms like biodiversity net gain to roll out a more strategic approach to enhancing biodiversity. And then we've got the need to consider the role of farming as well, and how we can work with those in the agricultural sector to kind of adopt more wildlife, to enhance wildlife on farmland basically. The community engagement workshop, again, similarly to the biodiversity workshop, didn't really go into the kind of the problems and the barriers, but it more focused on next steps. So we've got the need to enable networking and the kind of role that the council plays with that, with these sorts of events like the Climate Assembly, the need to publish more best practice case studies, rebranding of climate activities to relate to local concerns, so not always badging kind of workshops and those sorts of things as a climate event, but making sure that if they have a focus on wildlife or flooding, something which can have a kind of real life impact on residents in the area, that we're making sure that there's a good knowledge that that's what we'll be focusing on discussing in that particular session. The identification of community leaders, understanding local concerns, and making sure that we've got a good way of measuring improvements so that we're able to monitor progress moving forwards. The food workshop was split down into two different kind of methods of feedback or kind of stakeholder feedback. So we've got the consumer perspective and then the grower and farming perspective. So the consumer perspective, we've got the need to be able to share surplus food in a more efficient way. the increased need for cool storage for food banks, so that we know that surplus food can be safely stored so that it can be redistributed, subsidised fruit and vegetables where possible, more community kitchens, the mapping of food deserts. And then for the farmer and grower perspective, we've got to increase the dialogue between farmers and buyers, promoting the Sustainable Restaurant Association, developing an infrastructure map to help develop distribution hubs, introducing community supported agriculture into the district, so things like community orchards and those sorts of models, taking the farm shop model into town centres and increasing the provision of allotment and other community growing spaces. How will this feedback be used? Before I go on to this section, Councillor Hatch, can I hand over to you to feedback on the schools session, if that's okay?
Oh, okay. So anybody want to make any comment on the feedback so far? I've just got one comment, Eleanor, that you might be able to pick up on. In the business area, where I've done a lot of work on making sure that things like the circular economy I've done in my professional life, people, when you are in a day-to-day business, it's sometimes very difficult to find the information and to concentrate on that information when you know, it's just you're having to deal with quite considerable challenges on a day-to-day basis. I know that when I asked at that session about those councils, those businesses that had had energy audits versus grants, some of them had had energy audits, but nobody had proceeded to grants because it's quite a challenging process. I'm just wondering whether we could do more to help, or ask our partners to do more to help through simple toolkits, for example, where to get the information. And that probably refers to almost every area. How do we make sure that people can access information readily and easily in order to be able to take the actions that are needed?
Yeah, I had this conversation with Mark yesterday, because I know that with Stratford businesses have had the energy audits done, but nobody has actually gone to the stage of putting in a grant application. I don't know the answer to why that is. I have said that I will pick that up with my colleagues at the County Council next time we have a meeting on the Business Energy Advice System grant, so I can ask the question and I'll feed that back to you, Councillor Junid. I don't know off the top of my head why we're seeing quite a lot of grants being submitted from businesses in other areas, but like you say, if there is a way of simplifying that, then that is definitely something that we can look at with the County Council.
With energy not going to go down in price, I think that's one area where businesses will need more help.
Yeah.
But the other area where they will need more help is on circular economy, particularly when some resources, some metals, for example, are becoming in short supply and very, very expensive. Knowing that there could be a way to reclaim materials might be useful to some businesses. So again, that might be an area I could have a look at. But yeah. Anybody else want to raise anything before we go on to the how will the feedback be used? Councillor Crump.
Thank you, Councillor Junid. Yeah, I think it just follows on a bit from yesterday at the Cabinet and the OSC on Friday, when we're talking about the pressure that businesses are under, and with the changes, the additional costs they're likely to be receiving from employment staff, particularly around employers' national insurance. I think if we can help them in any way to reduce their costs, be more efficient, be more sustainable, it's going to be a win-win, isn't it? One, will helping save the environment. Two, we're reducing the burden of things of energy costs, etc., on them, or they can have new improved ways of doing their packaging, or definitely reducing things again, which makes savings. And thirdly, we are protecting the businesses in the town, because if we're not protecting the businesses in the town, I did see on one of the Facebook forums yesterday, a long running, I think it was either sweet shop or cake shop, was closing after about 14-15 years. And if we don't protect those type of businesses, there will be not so many businesses to come into, and it affects the health and vitality. So I think, again, it's a shame that people haven't applied for the energy grants or the barriers to doing that. So I think, if we can do work with that, and I know if we've got our own economic development team and the county's economic development team to see whether they can help, give them some reassurance, because sometimes people, oh, yes, a good idea, but have I got the time to do it? Is it worth it? But when it's explained that it can make their business more efficient and effective and make particularly cost savings as well, I think people will then go a bit further. But I think it's all about giving them the confidence and holding their hand metaphorically for a little stage, and then once they've got the confidence, that'll be one away. So yeah, thanks for all this, Ellie, very helpful.
And Councillor Manuela Pertiguero.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay, perfect. No, thank you so much. I was interested to see the feedback from the food workshop, which very much aligns with the motion and the kind of recommendations in the policy that the council just passed. So I wonder, how is there going to be like a comparison, and how you're gonna get this feedback, make sure that also informs the work that the officers and the councillors will be doing on food policies, around the food security policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Eleanor, if you want to kind of comment on those particular comments, but then maybe expand on how the feedback will be used.
Yeah, sure. So, Councillor Crump, I completely agree with you. We have got identified as one of the items in the Year 1 delivery plan for the Climate Change and Nature Recovery Strategy to create a model of support for businesses, both from a climate change mitigation and adaptation perspective. So that is something that we'll be looking to roll out in the next calendar year, because we're, like you say, it's kind of crucially important, really, that we are supporting them through the kind of changing policy framework that we find ourselves in at the minute. And as we start to see the impact of climate change in real time, really, Councillor Pertiguero, that is what this slide is in reference to. So it kind of goes across all of the feedback that we received from the workshops. So the findings from the Citizens' Assembly has been used to inform the production of the Council's Climate Change and Nature Recovery Strategy. As I was just saying about the business workshop, where possible actions which have been identified by residents and organisations that attended have been included in the 24-25 delivery plan as kind of priority actions for delivery next year. Where actions are more relevant to other service areas across the council, they will be shared to inform future policy and strategy production. So we'll be making sure that we share that feedback with the likes of planning, housing and communities, to make sure that all kind of relevant service areas have had sight of the feedback that was received, which will inform their kind of future work programmes as well. I don't know if you had anything else for me to pick up, Councillor Junid?
No, it's just that what you've brought out there, that you will share this across the council, because there are other policy areas and strategy areas and different departments who are able to take some of the findings on and maybe develop them more. Not only into their strategies and, for example, the local plan, etc., but it may be that opportunities come for grants, and if they're aware of what are the priorities from our residents, from this particular citizen assembly, then they will take that on board. And obviously this is a preparation now for future assembly type meetings. Councillor Hatch.
Ellie, could you change, because it wasn't a citizens' assembly, because citizens' assemblies mean that that it directly, what is decided there becomes policy. So we called it a climate assembly. Okay, sorry, I'll change that. Just very quickly on the schools, because of the change of date, there weren't quite as many young people there as we like, but the there were a couple of schools represented there, and they were a complete breath of fresh air to the whole event. In the workshop, it was hosted by Let's Go Zero, and there was discussed how to make climate action plans in schools. But the young people attended other different workshops, and you might touch this later on in the feedback, but they're mentioned quite a few times in the feedback. And one, I think it was in the energy workshop, somebody said to them, oh, we mustn't scare the children by all these statistics. And they were like sort of quite almost angry at that sentiment, in that, you know, they want to know what to do and how to do it, and therefore they need the facts. So that was the school's feedback.
And just to say that in the email that I've received from Stephen Norrie, where he was copied in Claudine Pearson from WALC and the local climate engagement programme, they were saying that they would like to see more one-day conferences in future, perhaps more on a more focused way, and maybe not, in different areas of the district. So I will send that on to you, because they were both offering that they would help in future if we need their help. So I will make sure that gets to you, and I think the common view was that we would like to do this again. Yeah. Councillor Keighley.
Thanks, Chair. Ellie, can you hear me? Yeah.
I can, yeah.
I'm just wondering if we had a breakdown of the people that attended the Climate Assembly, just so that we got a feel for the proportion of people that came in from, say, businesses, people that were just residents that were interested, stuff like that. Here we go. So
Yeah,
we've got something here for us. Thank you.
Yeah. So we do have quite a lot of information, actually, and what I should mention is that the kind of following section isn't exhaustive of all of the feedback that we received, more generally as kind of the event as a whole. I'm happy to circulate that after the panel, because there's a lot of comments, there's a lot of feedback. So the first question that we asked on the kind of post-attendance survey was whether people came to the event as an individual or organisation. So we can see that the vast majority, 66.7% of people, came as a representative of an organisation, compared to 33.3% who came as an individual. We have got a list of the organisations that were represented as well. I'm happy to circulate that as well, Councillor Keighley, if that would be useful. I'll carry on through this section. Like I say, we can have it opens out into a discussion at the end. So we've got how useful, enjoyable was today's event. So 0 being not at all, and 1 being not at all, sorry, and 5 being very much so. We can see that most people found it useful and enjoyable, around the 4 and 5s. We had a couple who potentially felt less so, 2s and 3s, and we kind of go into a bit of an analysis later on as to why that might be. So we've got, what were your key takeaways from this event? So I've tried to make it as balanced as possible, so we've included some positives and some negatives. So these are all comments that received from attendees. So we thought that there was will and enthusiasm to realise real change, that there is still much to be done and more joined up approaches are needed. Somebody said that it was good to see the council open up to the community, that we need to work on being inclusive of the wider public, that there are a lot of climate initiatives, but they struggled to see the overall coordination. And somebody also offered that there seems to be many different groups all aiming to do the same things, feels that there must be a way that we can all collaborate better. The next question was, what workshops did you attend, if any? So we can see that harnessing community action and biodiversity and river health were the most heavily attended workshops, followed by food action strategy and energy, then transport, then climate adaptation, followed by litter and waste, schools, and business and sustainability. So we know kind of where the most interest is kind of held on kind of sectors across sustainability. I think it's important for us to note things like adaptation, just because they weren't as heavily attended. I think it's still really important that we have those conversations in these sorts of forums, because it does show that potentially that's something that needs to be spoken about more for us to communicate the importance of that. Manuela?
Yeah, thank you, Ellie. I think schools was by invitation only though, so
Okay.
yeah, that's why it was just by invitation, so not everyone could go into the workshop. I think Olivia can confirm that.
Yeah, and just to note, obviously not everybody who attended the workshops filled in the form, so
yeah. Okay, so the next question that was asked was there anything not mentioned at the workshop which you would have liked to have discussed? So somebody put yes, more information about current Stratford DC initiatives regarding the climate emergency, felt a bit of a one-way street. Somebody said they would like to see emissions trajectories, that there should be perhaps more time for discussion and brainstorming at the adaptation workshop. They would have liked more discussion on the pedestrianisation of Stratford Centre, how all the different groups contribute to the whole and how they could create even more impact if they work together, and then a plug for the e-cargo bike scheme and ways the scheme could be adapted to make better use of the bikes and trikes. And then I think this is the final question. If a similar event was to happen again, how could it be improved? So somebody said, I think that it would be improved by holding it as part of Great Big Green Week, which obviously was the initial plan. We think yes, but only if I feel I might come away better informed about what the council is doing to address climate change. Somebody said, could we have a larger venue, please? And more time to hear from those attending, more time for discussion and planning. Somebody else said, I think some of the workshops could have been more focused on building actionable outcomes. And then somebody else said, I know a few of our members would have liked to have attended the event but couldn't because it fell outside of work or during work hours, sorry. So that's kind of the last of the feedback. Just to open out now really onto discussion on whether this is an event that we'd like to replicate in the future, and if so, any changes that we might make, and kind of next steps really, I suppose, to get the ball rolling if we are looking to do it again next year.
Thank you very much. Have anybody got any comments they want to make? I mean, my first point would be that I would like to see it done again. I'd like to see it in a bit bigger venue. This was in effect a pilot. It was also meant to be during the Big Green Week, but then because of the general election, it had to be postponed. It was an awful lot of work was done by a few people, but a lot of the council officers came in to help as well. But the initial work was done with Councillor Bertigello, Councillor Hatch, and Councillor Grocott, as well as the officers. And I think it was a pilot and it went very well. But we need to up it and think about the way in which we present some of the topics, and maybe take it to bigger venues, and maybe take it to where it can be more accessible, maybe in different parts of the district over the next few years. I think that's my first thoughts on that. Councillor Keithley.
Yeah, thank you. I did think also as a first event it was I thought very good, and you learnt a lot. The question really, Ellie, is how well do you feel it met the aims that you set out in the first place? And the second part of that question is, would you change aims and objectives for the next one?
Apologies, but I didn't set the aims for this event. I think
it doesn't. No, I'm not. I was just asking you to question. I wasn't criticising. I was just sort of asking how well do you feel the event met the aims that were set at the beginning, and how well did it meet those? And in future, if we're going to run an annual event, how might we change that? I'm particularly interested in who came and how we can expand that and take the story much further, particularly in the sense of engaging with residents, things like active travel, and with businesses with more sustainable ways of working.
Yeah, to be honest, from what I could see on my LinkedIn and that kind of thing, it looked like it was really positively received. And I think the feedback that was received kind of most commonly was that it was a positive event. Obviously, there were some teething problems like the venue and that kind of thing, but I think they're quite easily solved, really. I think, Councillor Keithley, the point around who we're engaging and expanding our reach is a really interesting one, because this is a problem that we've also seen with the local climate engagement programme, is we're not always engaging with everybody. And I think if we're asking people to come to a climate event, then are we going to get all of the people in the room that we want to speak to and we want to hear from? I don't know the answer to that. I think it's like what Councillor Hatch said, that it wasn't as heavily attended by young people as we perhaps would have liked, that there's potentially some thinking for us to do around that as to what demographics we would like to make sure are there and how we can work with them and get them on board. I think, like you say, as a start, it seemed to be really good, but definitely some things for us to think about how we engage with everybody, I suppose. If anybody has any ideas around that, then happy to hear them, and we can potentially work to get some comms out and that sort of stuff. Work with our stakeholders, partner organisations, to see if they have any ideas as to how we can kind of enhance that reach.
I think Councillor Keithley wants to come back in again, and then Councillor Hatch, and then Councillor Crump, and I'll wind up at the end.
Thanks, Ellie. Just to perhaps add that reading some of the feedback, people, and also some of the detail in the presentation, the sort of complexity of these initiatives and all these organisations, some of which are duplicating each other's efforts. I think in all of this, the message needs to be extremely simple. We need to be constantly just going over the same 3 key things that people can do to make a difference in their everyday lives. And the danger is sometimes we get into too much complexity. And I think, when we're communicating to the wider audience across the district, perhaps using the view, potentially, we need to keep those messages very simple, things that people can do, and keep reinforcing the same things over and over again.
Councillor Hatch, and then Councillor Crump.
So I've got a few thoughts on this. So I think, first of all, taking it outside of Stratford is an idea, and perhaps, personally, I'd like to do something in Shipston, and then you know your own patch and what would work in your own patch. Secondly, with and then you can engage the more people by taking it. Obviously, keep something in Stratford as well, but take it, spread it around. Then having thematic approaches, as Stephen's email said, I think is really important. So you have a theme, we tried to do everything all in one day, but having a themed event, and from that you can go into more detail and have some actionable outcomes, because it was a bit of a sort of talking shop, and I think a lot of people that increases the sort of engagement if there's some actionable outcomes. And I have to disagree about the repeating 3 things that individuals can do, because I think it was a part of it was telling the public what the district council is doing. That was an important part of sort of relaying what they're already doing and sort of inviting people to contribute to that. So, yeah, I don't think. It's nuanced, isn't it? But I think those are my 3 points. Yeah.
Councillor Crump.
Yeah, I'm sort of like quite similar to Councillor Keithley and Councillor Hatch that sometimes I think we do need to keep our message as simple as possible. I think we need to make the public aware what we're doing, what we've achieved so far. You know, I can't think of a better phrase, but like the quick wins that we've achieved so far, we can do straight away. Things that we can do in the short term, and things that take a bit longer, especially if we need our partners. You know, like the pedestrianisation. So that is one of the things where we will need partners, and it, like I say, Rome wasn't built in a day. So I think if we can be realistic, I tend to agree with that. Whether we can concentrate on more in certain areas, and rather than spreading our message too thinly, and I think that would probably help. And the other thing as well, we've got to be aware of consequences of actions. I spoke again at Cabinet, and I think Councillor Junior agreed, is that there are actions of doing things. That the park and ride scheme was mentioned, and that's had a big upturn in uptake. I think 112% compared to last year. So that is positive. We'll get more people off the road. We're using sharing the bus, and you know, less pollution, less congestion. The negative side for that, with my accountant hat on, and it was mentioned in the budget, is that car parking income is down. It likes to be down around about 100,000 compared to the budget. So whilst that is, you know, it's just a consequence of that. So there'll always be some form of cost to action. So again, we need to make sure people are aware of these things, because, you know, obviously we've got to have a balanced budget so we can afford to provide enough money to do our climate initiatives. And I know we've got budgets and earmarked reserves, but it's always there in the background. So I think generally very supportive. I think we need to be aware of what we can do in the short term, quick wins, what we need our partners in, particularly the county, regarding transport. And also we have to be careful of unintended consequences. And again, the other thing is, I think if we can just show what we're doing to business for our businesses, because they are the lifeblood of the town and the district, and that encourages people to come, etc. So thank you for that. And again, it's very positive. And if you do need any help in the future, I'm more than happy to contribute. And shout out for Southam. We've had Shipston mentioned, we've had Stratford. I could mention Studley and Southam. So we've got at least 4 S's there. So more than happy to help as well. Thank you.
And finally, as well as showcasing what district and some of the bigger organisations should do, the voluntary groups that had received money from the Community Climate Change Fund, I was so impressed with the kind of work they're doing, really, really impressed that they just got on. The one that particularly I went to see was Great Olm. Not only had they done a tremendous amount of work to prevent surface water flooding, they'd actually written it all down and recorded it and made it all available for other parish councils to do, and showcased it through WALC. It would be lovely to follow up and show just what the energy of communities can do when they're given a very small sum of money, but with the energy that and the local knowledge that occurs in a community. I was extremely impressed. So being able to showcase some of those at any future climate event would be, I think, useful to others. Thank you very much for that. Is there anything else you want to discuss on that, Eleanor, or do you want me to move on to the next item?
No, if everybody's kind of fed back their thoughts, and happy for us to move on.
Councillor Hatch.
Sorry, a couple of things I just remembered. Ellie, if you want a comprehensive list of organisations that attended, rather than, because there were more than on that list, Councillor Grocott has got them all, or I could get them for you. And also, just one thing we haven't mentioned that was in the feedback, that there was a bit of a hole in the event on planning. And, you know, that's a big area of our activity, and there's definitely some room for some more activity to do with climate and planning.
And that is on the process of planning and how it can be included and how useful it can be at addressing climate change overall. Okay, well, we'll move on to the next item then, which is an update on the ecological emergency. And again, Eleanor, I think it's you that's going to talk about this one.
Yes, it is. There's just a few things that have kind of emerged recently, or projects that have come through, that it might just be worth flagging with kind of biodiversity as a focus. So I thought it's a good opportunity to give an update. So the first being that the Community Climate Change Fund, we will be accepting biodiversity focused projects for consideration through that for the second round, which opens early next year. So just to flag that if anybody knows of any kind of community groups that are looking to progress projects with biodiversity as an aim, that might be suitable for them. The Tree Call to Action project that is being led by the Heart of England Forest unfortunately wraps up by the end of April next year. So just again, if anybody comes across anybody that is looking to enhance tree planting efforts, that is still an option, and the officers at Heart of England Forest will still be able to provide help up until April. After that, unfortunately, it is closing down, but we are working on doing some legacy projects at the minute to make sure that there's something that can continue to help with increasing tree cover across the district. And then just to flag that some of our kind of key priorities for the recovery of nature have been highlighted in the emerging strategy. So just to provide a brief update of those, they fall under three main themes. So managing our own land for nature, connecting nature in Stratford district, and then increasing tree planting efforts. So we'll be looking at making those three kind of main objectives a priority really moving forward. So managing our own land for nature, we'll be looking at surveying our own sites, seeing where we can deliver further ecological enhancements, working with town and parish councils and those sorts of groups so that they're aware of any resources or guidance that they can use to increase biodiversity on site. Connecting nature in Stratford, we'll be looking at supporting partners with the local nature recovery strategy and those sorts of documents that are emerging. And then tree planting, we're working to kind of carry on as we have been doing with rolling out projects such as the Free Trees for Farmers, working with partners such as the Heart of England Forest, and then protecting existing woodland and trees where possible as well. So we are looking at kind of increasing the number of biodiversity focused projects and making sure that those tie into climate change adaptation where possible. So I just wanted to flag that that's kind of a emerging field, if you like, for us, and we're making sure that we're keeping focused on nature as well as climate change. So yeah, just a brief update on that.
Thank you very much indeed. Have you gone with any particular questions, or are you all happy that that is an update? I know that there are conversations and meetings are ongoing, so we'll just kind of keep everybody updated as those progress. But it's absolutely crucial that is part and parcel of the strategy, not just climate change per se, but biodiversity is part and parcel of the answer, as well as potentially being under threat itself. Okay, anything else that anybody wants to raise? If not, the next item is urgent business, and I've not been given any urgent business. So really that is the end of the meeting, and I just thank you very much indeed for all your input and for attending. And we will go on, and the next meeting will be in January. So that's the 7th of January. Put that in your calendars and make sure that we get there. Okay. Thanks a lot. And please feel free to, if you've got any ideas that come after today's meeting, please feel free to either inform me or Eleanor with your ideas. Thanks a lot. Okay, bye-bye.
Everyone, bye. Bye.